Hey guys, welcome back to the Book Haven with Rachel and Raven. I'm Rachel, this is Raven, and today we're going to do another fun episode where we review a book that we just read at the same time called The Outlaw Noble Salts, which is floating around on Goodreads and Instagram and all of the places. So we thought it would be fun to take a crack at it ourselves to see if we agree or disagree with the popular opinion. So I'm going to let you go first because when Raven finished, I got a one-word text message like 10 times. My daughter was like, "Who is texting you?" And I was like, "Oh, she must have
Just
finished
me.
the book." Anyways, okay,
Yes.
so your thoughts.
Okay. Before we get started, though, I have a new mug, and I just have to
Oh,
say, isn't it adorable?
that's
Can you
so
see it?
cute. Yes.
Oh,
Is it Mary
it's,
Poppins? Is
it,
that what it says?
Rachel, it's Gilmore Girls.
I can't like see the intricate details. I
Can
thought
you
it
see
said, oh, well,
Luke's?
now I see Luke's. The other
Okay.
side doesn't have Luke's. It has an umbrella.
Oh my
Anyways,
goodness. Okay. Anyways, it's
very
at
cute.
Walmart right now, guys. Not
Oh,
sponsored, but I found them
but
and they
we'd
were
love
super
to
cute.
be.
And yes, yes. And anyways, I ordered them immediately because I saw that somebody had gone, I guess, to Walmart and found them. Anyways, super cute if you need a new mug. Because who doesn't need
Who
another
doesn't?
mug?
Yeah.
Um, anyways, okay, my review on the book. Okay. So I don't typically like outlaw type stories. I mean, I don't
Do you want to give
know.
the blurb of like what it is about?
Okay, so it's about Butch Cassidy. Not really about Butch Cassidy. It's kind of she intertwines the story of Butch Cassidy, as I guess history tells it, and kind of her story, or kind of like how she
The
imagined that.
fictional. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a different kind of story. Anyways, and so I don't know. I'm not really good at retelling about what it's about, but that's
The
kind of the
gist.
thing.
Yeah.
He meets a lady who is a singer, and she has a son who has like he has like a deformity
Hmm.
on his face. And anyways, he ends up helping these people. I don't want to give too much away, but like he ends up becoming a very vital role in their life, um, in a good way. Um, yeah. So y'all know me. I go off of feelings a lot when I read books. And I had a hard time, I feel like, really getting into the book because I don't know, like in the middle of the book, I was kind of struggling with, why are we writing a story about something that we already know, like how it happened? Like, are we changing it? But by the end of the book, I appreciated the way that, like, how it all came full circle, and how, you know, I don't know what her desire was for the book. It was just kind of an interesting, different ending. So I don't know. So it made it kind of interesting to read how she kind of imagined the story could have ended. Um, which I liked. I liked it. I liked the relationship between him and the son.
Hmm.
Um, Gus. I liked that. I thought it was cute. I also want to note that I did the audio. Did you do the audio?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that I necessarily liked the narrator
Yeah.
on it. It kind of felt, I don't know, like I don't know. And I had to speed it up so fast.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't typically go past 1.75 on my audiobooks, but I was like up to like almost 2.5. This guy
Wow.
was slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm assuming you had the same one.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if that had played a part in it, with me kind of being like, I don't, it felt kind of kiddie to me in the
Yeah.
voices that he was doing and stuff like that. Um, like with his brother, Van, the
Yeah.
brother. I just felt like they made him sound like such a immature little, I mean, maybe I guess that's how she wanted him to be, is like just this little
Yeah.
immature brat.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, okay, so I loved the storyline between Noble and Gus. Um, Now there was a part towards the end where it reminded me of Redeeming Love. Did
Okay.
you catch a vibe like that?
Yeah. I mean, I could see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I just like I don't know, he was very patient with her.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he was not, I mean, we probably should give some caveats for this book, but she uh she was, I don't know, kind of a confusing character, but it made sense because of all of her brokenness in
Yeah.
the like towards the beginning of the book, or
Yeah.
the beginning of her story. And I don't know, I felt like he was very kind and very patient with her, and I don't know. So I
Okay.
ended up giving it 4 stars.
Okay.
Just because I don't know, I couldn't fully commit to the 5. But I did enjoy it and I did want to know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where I landed. And I saw
Okay.
you landed at 5, which
Well,
is
so yes, I should say it's more of like a 4.5. But the
okay.
reason why I went 5 instead of 4 was because I just wanted to know what happened. So I felt like the story was good enough that I was intrigued enough to want to keep listening and like to try to find time to listen
Yeah,
um and so to me that's kind of where I went, well, because I kind of was like, well, I'll give it a 4, but just because how invested I was into it, I ended up giving it a 5. So I have to say that I have read one of her other books, which is What the Wind Knows. And so I kind of knew what I was getting into a little bit. I haven't read any of her other books, but um, she definitely has a style, I think, because this one I
yeah,
feel like is very similar to that. And I wouldn't call it Hallmarky. I just wouldn't say that it's like hard, intense historical fiction either. So once I kind
right,
of got over the fact that this is all just pretend, um I kind of was just like, oh, it's kind of just like a different take on history. um Going into it, I thought it was going to be more historically accurate. So I did appreciate at the very end she puts like an author's note and kind of just says like, this is what I wanted for him. Did you listen to that whole thing? Because she does talk about how
yeah,
she was
yeah,
really invested with the characters and stuff like that. And I mean, honestly, when I got to the end of this book, it was pretty emotional. It was very intense at the end, and that was another reason why I was like, yeah, I'll give it a 5 star because it was pretty good. It made me emotionally invested, and I was like, I will say though that the little twist at the end, I totally knew right from the beginning was gonna happen.
yeah.
Um, and did you like catch on to
I
that?
didn't know from the beginning, but I did catch on to it
Yeah,
kind of midway through.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so I think that I think that's kind of hard whenever I feel like I'm like, I know where this is going, but
yeah,
I still, and like, yeah, we'll talk about it after the spoiler warnings, but I still liked it surprisingly. I'm almost a little shocked at how much I liked it because I normally don't like things that are way off from left field from history. Like I want the more accurate version, but um like I said, somehow I was able to kind of disconnect. Maybe it's because I know nothing about Butch Cassidy. So it's not like it's a person that I'm like, you changed it kind of thing. But
yeah.
so I would agree. So most people on Goodreads and like this is a very high rated book. People are praising this book. It's just and kind of like people from all different I don't want
Yeah.
to say walks of life, but all different kind of, yeah.
Reading backgrounds.
Yes, and reading taste and stuff like that. So I do
Yeah.
think that it kind of hits a wide audience, but I will also say I would rate this R. There are some very hard topics of sexual abuse,
Mhm.
and there are two or three open door scenes where it is described in detail what's happening. It doesn't go on for a long time, but it is definitely
Yeah.
rated R. Some of it, I mean, like we've talked about before about the cussing and stuff like that. Some of it makes sense why she's giving exactly so much detail. But then there's another time where I was like, I don't think there needed to be that much detail. And
Yeah.
even the time where she was like, where it felt kind of justified, it still kind of went on a little too long for me. Um, so I will say that was probably my biggest turnoff for the book was just the kind of there's several really graphic scenes. So
More towards the end, right?
I mean, it definitely picks
Yeah.
up middle to end. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah,
but
I
that's
would say the
where,
same thing. It did
yeah,
make sense a couple of the times, and it helped you. It did help. I mean, I wouldn't have preferred it to be in there, but in a couple of those, I think it was a couple of them, it helped you understand a little bit more where she was coming
yeah, where
from,
she was,
why she
yeah,
was the way she was. But then also it made you love the main character more
yeah,
too because of choices that were made.
yes,
So
yeah.
if that's
Okay, so
helpful.
I feel like that's a good place to like kind of say if you haven't finished the book or haven't started or whatever, go read it and then come back and listen to the rest and see if you agree with us about the like nitty gritty details. But I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So if you haven't finished it, stop the episode now.
All right.
So, um, so going back to like the sexual abuse stuff, I thought that that story line that she had in there with the made up lady Jane, and
Mhm.
so she's not a real person in real life. She's a
Yeah.
character in the book, but not in real life. But that whole storyline, I felt like that was needed for the book to be what it was. I don't think his story was like substantial enough. But and maybe she could have written it that way, but it was just kind of like I felt like it was half and half of them. But she was written and I get it, but sometimes she annoyed me
Mhm.
and was kind of like hard to like. Like I get your situation, but it was
Yeah.
just kind of hard to and then yes, he felt like Butch slash Noble felt almost like this unrealistic man kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was too perfect almost.
Yeah.
And knowing that he was knowing more of the, I guess, real story, I don't know, it kind of messed with my head a little bit
Yeah.
because not that I've studied Butch Cassidy or I've done this extensive study on outlaws, but like outlaws come with a certain type of like personality and how
Yeah.
kind of how they're what they do or what they did. And this guy, it was like, is he what do they call it? Like multi-personality disorder or something? Like, did
Yeah.
he have like two just, I mean, I guess he would have had to because if he's an outlaw and he's always running for the law, like he would have had to have a good cover, you
Yeah.
know?
I do
I don't
I think
know.
I yeah, I think I see where you're going with that and I totally agree. I don't think she like because you kind of start the book where like he's tired of running and all of this kind of stuff. You don't get a lot of like the actual factual history of Butch Cassidy and like robbing the
Right.
trains and stuff. It's kind of mentioned in like anecdotal situations where he's telling somebody or somebody else is telling the story in conversation, but you don't get that. So I think she could have done him more justice as far as really diving into like but why was he tired of that life? I don't think that she hit that hard or like explained that well enough. I feel like she went into great detail about Jane and that situation. Like I know more about her backstory than I actually do about Butch when he's supposed to be the main character. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And I also feel like in the parts that she did talk about a little bit of his past, it was almost like what the impression that I got was like, well, he was just a victim of a circumstance. Like he was
Yeah.
just in the wrong place. Not altogether, but like he had to do the thing.
Yeah.
Almost like he was being forced to do it. And I just didn't, I don't know. That's just not how I imagine Butch Cassidy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I agree. I think that
and
was
like there
kind of
was an
flaky. Yeah.
excuse for when he did things, like when he
Right.
stole the horse, like she came in, like he had an excuse. It's almost like she's in love with Butch Cassidy and she didn't want to write him in a bad light.
Yes. Yes. I could see that too. And maybe trying to maybe her intent was like to try to make him a more likable character. I
Yeah,
don't know. But did it just it felt very or she should have explained this like total switch that he had to becoming this like better, more, whatever person. And I do think there's probably a lot of historical times where it is accurate that maybe, an outlaw or something gave money to, you know, help other people around and stuff like
sure,
that.
yeah.
But it just wasn't explained how he got from this. And there was a little part where she talks about like him choosing this life but not really understanding what he was choosing. But like there's a lot of life between choosing it and then getting out that is kind of just never touched on. Never.
Yeah.
So you're
And
kind of
that's
just
kind of the opening
left.
scene
Yeah.
too. The opening scene is that he's just wanting to leave that old life, but
Yeah.
you don't really understand why.
Right.
Um, yeah,
I
yeah, I
mean,
don't feel
it's
like she
literally, I don't
delivered
know
that
how
well.
many times she said, or she had him say, I'm just tired of running. Like that was kind of the like phrase that she just threw out there every time. I feel like she should have explained. She just kind of blanketed it with, well, he was tired of running. And I get it. I get it. And so I knew at the very beginning when, and not to sound like a know it all or whatever, but at the very beginning when he's talking about his brother, like this is the opening scene, and they go, he looks just like me. I was like, oh, well, there you go.
Well,
Like
that's
he's going
convenient.
to, yes. Oh, that is super convenient. He is probably going to turn himself in. So, I knew from the beginning that that's probably where she was going with it. I but I was okay kind of knowing it because she kind of drops that hint and then she drops the hint again when they meet up and they both have beards and blah blah blah. But I felt like it was still okay. Um
Yeah.
like it didn't ruin it for me. Sometimes I'll just get really frustrated when they do that right at the beginning and then the entire book and you're just like, "Oh, just get it over with."
You're just waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, for it to happen. So, are
Okay.
you going to read any more books by we haven't said her name. I think it's Amy
Amy
Harmon.
Harmon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, not anytime soon, but I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I thought she did a
Yeah.
great job. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted to pick it up. I wanted to know where she was going to go with the story. And I will say, like, I didn't like the character, the gang that he was with, like his people, his brother and what's his name?
Yeah.
Sundance gang.
Yeah.
Anyways, I didn't particularly like them when they kind of came more into the picture.
Yeah.
But I will say by the end of the book, I kind of did like them, and they kind of grew on me. Even though Van, I felt like it was annoying, but I think that had more to do with the person reading the audiobook than it actually had to do with him. Um, but I think the relationship between even them and Gus, the little boy,
Yeah.
um, was kind of fun um, to see that kind of develop. And I was very, very, very pleased with how she ended it. Like,
Yeah. I wasn't sure if
even
you
though
were
it
going to
and
be.
even though it kind of felt a little tied
Yes.
up, but I was like, okay, I mean, that's sweet. But it helped. The author's note at the end is what helped me. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, this is
Yeah.
a woman who's like fascinated by this story and probably in love with this Butch Cassidy guy. And
Yeah.
okay, I can see why she did it the way she did it. And I thought it was sweet. I thought it was sweet, the reunion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really liked that. And I liked, I already said I liked Butch and or Noble and same person, and Gus's relationship. And I just thought it was, I loved how compassionate he was, and how he could relate to the boy in a way. Um, because the boy, so Gus has like a face. Is it a
Yeah.
birthmark? It's a birthmark on his face. And so like he gets ridiculed or like made fun of a lot for that. And so when Butch Cassidy comes in, I don't know, he's a voice of, I don't know, empowerment and I
Yeah.
guess encouragement
Yeah.
to him, to Gus. So I don't know. I really liked that part of the story
Yeah.
a lot.
I did. It's definitely though, like if you're opposed to happy endings,
Yeah. Which sometimes
or
I
I
am.
know that's why I'm like, I was really like, when I finished it, I was like, oh, I don't know if she's gonna like it or not. Um, because it definitely is. From what I can remember, because I read her other book forever ago, that one was also tied up with a nice little bow at the end too. So
Which
I don't
might be
know if
why I
that's,
was like, I'm probably
yeah,
not gonna read.
right.
But I
But
might try it now.
I don't know if so if that's her style or not. I just on Audible, and I don't know if it'll still be on when this comes out, but it's one of her books, Where the Lost Wander, I think, which is about the Oregon Trail, is on sale for $1.99. So I went ahead and got that. So I'll keep you posted on that one. But the other one, What the Wind Knows, is about like Irish history stuff. I've talked about it on here before.
Yeah.
Um, and that one, like, I liked it. She did the same thing of taking like real characters, but then inserting pretend characters into this like actual historical fiction or actual history, and then kind of weaving the story side by side. And I really liked it. So as long as you can let go of this is not history and I'm going to be okay with that, then it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's
So it's
fine. Just
fun.
go with it. Let
Just
it go.
I felt like this book for me though was a really, really good I hate using the term escape, but like a really, really fun. I was very invested, like the same sense of how you get when you're watching a movie and you're just totally into the story. I was just totally into the story.
Yeah.
So, and I needed a good
I
book like
think, and we're gonna do an episode on summer reads, but I think this
yes.
one would be definitely one of
Yeah,
those for sure.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah. I listened to it all. I was
Yeah.
like, my phone was plugged in and I was outside and I didn't feel like those scenes, I didn't feel like were terrible, uh, completely terrible. I mean, I think I've read worse. Yeah, so like I didn't feel like it was the worst thing I've ever read. And I am glad, so this is gonna sound very contradictory to where I'm usually am on this issue. But I am glad because it did help me. I feel like if I would have skipped it, I wouldn't have understood her
Yeah.
character as much. So yeah, it was more than I care to have in a book, but I appreciated a little bit of that element.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I
Yeah.
think being able to sit in her shoes for
Mhm.
just a second, you know, um,
Yeah.
and then his compassion towards her,
Yeah.
if that's if any of that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think I would probably put it along the same lines as Redeeming Love, except for the fact that I felt like Redeeming Love just kept coming back and back and back and back and back
Hmm.
to the same scenes. Um, or the same situations where she's pushing him away and he just keeps whatever. But I felt like in this one, so she does describe their first kind of like encounter, like sexual encounter after, you know, uh, I guess it's like after they get married and stuff. But
Yeah.
And just like her combativeness to it. And I thought it was very interesting because she would say like, I don't want to kiss, I don't want to do all of this stuff. And so in that way, I felt like she wrote it really honest and true to how somebody who has dealt with that type of abuse long term, I mean, she was being abused for a long time, how she would respond to that. And his reaction typical? I have no idea. But I also think she wrote it in a way that made somebody who hasn't dealt with that and hasn't gone through that trauma and stuff, you felt like you could understand, like you said, understand why she's like acting the way she is, because it's like you could tell
Yeah.
she wants to be with him, but like her body physically won't let her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and she has to kind of get over that hurdle, and so I thought she did a really good job with that. It was intense. I will say that there's only really the one scene I felt like um where she was kind of like aggressive with him that made me kind of a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. I didn't like
Um,
that part.
but then but that was like one scene. And then when they end up actually having relations later, I felt like she did that okay. Maybe a little too far, but again, trying to like see her growth in the fact of like, okay, no, I want this relationship. Um, and
Yeah.
I'm letting my walls down and stuff like that. So, and like I said, I think that's why she's the more, Jane is the more, I
More
don't
the
know,
main
like,
character.
yes, more
Yeah.
dimensional, more, I'm trying
Yeah.
to find the word for it, but I think she's the one that really drives the story. If it was just about him, I don't think it was good enough, but her story and Gus and having to like walk that line,
Yeah.
I thought that was the powerful story in the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I
So,
would agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, we have come to the end of another episode, and we're so glad that you joined us. If you wouldn't mind taking a second, giving us a thumbs up, um, a comment. Have you read this book, and like, what did you think about it? If we're way off, like, you can just vent everything in the comment section.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to be then the episode after this one is going to be all about summer reads. So get your pen and paper out and you can jot down. We'll have a lot of titles for you to jump in for some summer reading. From I guess mom and kids, are we doing both? Kind of like just
If you
overall?
can, yeah.
Just whatever. We're just gonna whatever.
It'll just be a fire hose of book suggestions. What's
Fire
new?
hose. Okay, so thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, there's an animal on my porch.
Ooh.
I don't know where it came from. Oh, it's a cat.
I like
All of a sudden, I
your
just see
animal,
like this.
like you live in the wild.
Well, I mean it. We see wildlife here.